Hello, everyone, and welcome to our new show. The name is subject to change. For now, we'll call it OneCast, even though there's going to be 2 people per episode. It'll be a weekly show, hopefully. I think this will be easier to produce than the podcast, to get at least one person per week to talk to me. And yeah, that's exactly what the show is. It's going to be a small talk show between me and one other person, and it'll be a topical show, unlike our podcast. I'm going to have specific topics set out per episode. And depending on the topic itself, I'll handpick who I want to talk about it. And for this episode, I brought with me
Clay. How you doing?
I brought
a
Clay.
Familiar voice.
Yeah, I figured it'd be easier to start with somebody we all know for our current viewers. You can drink, don't worry. Don't be afraid to drink. Pepsi.
Right, sounds good.
I'm drinking Beppis.
Sponsored by
No,
Pepsi.
Don't say that. So this episode is going to be about ghosts, and the reason I picked Clay is because he has lots of fun little stories about ghosts.
I feel like I'm also just the only person we know that actually believes in ghosts.
No, that's not true. Doesn't David? But he's not here.
He does not, because when we talked about it, he shit on my life and basically called me an idiot. So,
I want to start by talking about ghosts themselves, which obviously I'm sure everybody knows what a ghost is and the history of them. You know, their history dates back to pre-literature. You know, obviously I'm sure Native Americans had lots of belief in spirits.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, I don't know if cavemen really did. I assume they would, though. I mean, why wouldn't they? What is a person? You know, it's somebody with spirit. That's the old term, right? It's like a ghost is just a spirit without a body. And I know, I'm sure cavemen believed in life force and that the spirits probably didn't rest. And, you know, funerals back in the day were to put spirits to rest so that they would go to heaven. And a ghost is just somebody that didn't get properly put to rest and has stayed in that place as a spirit for millennia.
Yeah, for whatever reasons.
For whatever reason, because they weren't, you know,
most
revenged.
people think it's because they have unfinished business. I don't really necessarily believe in that. I don't think your personal day-to-day things really affect your
ghosted life,
your fucking mortality or whatever. But
gotcha.
It's other things could factor in, but.
So
let's get right into
like I mentioned,
why I believe
Clay
what I believe.
ghosts.
I really need to stop fucking with these
stop
objects on the
touching
table.
things.
That's the ghost, man.
It's the ghost.
It's
the ghost. So Clay, tell me why you believe in ghosts.
So, ever since I was little, I always had not really stories accumulated, but I always just had an idea of a person or a thing that wasn't really a person, but was there and took the shape of whatever. But I'll start off by my earliest experience, which I didn't really remember firsthand, but this is just from what my mom tells me that I used to tell her about. So I used to live with, it was just me and my mom for a good chunk of my life. Not a good chunk, I would say when I was a little kid from birth to 4 years old, it was mostly just me and my mom, and within an apartment. And apparently most nights in the morning, I would tell my mom that the night before that I would see a man just watching me from the window, and it was not from the outside of the window, but he would lean against the window or whatever the hell and watch me while I slept. And I said it a bunch of different times, and we just talk about him he was a normal thing that everyone would know about. And my mom lost her shit, of course, at first. What the fuck do you mean there's a guy watching you from your window? What the hell? And then she realized that there's no one actually there, but I'm seeing something, obviously, and she just assumed it was my guardian angel or whatever, which I don't necessarily believe that, but I do believe that there was something obviously present, or whatever you want to say. And the way I described him too was as a dark figure with a hat, not really a fedora, but
I feel lots of children see a man with a hat.
Yeah, and I actually looked that up too. That's apparently it's a bad omen according to the internet.
No wonder your life's so fucking.
Because I had seen it, this figure at least out of the corner of my eye, a few times when I was a teenager. But whenever I saw things when I was older, I just kind of brushed it off. Fuck it. It's just my eyes being stupid, because I'm also kind of blind. But that was the first main occurrence that I ever experienced or supposedly experienced. Second one was way more of a doozy. That this one was actually kind of fucking terrifying.
Okay.
But this was a little bit later. I was about 6 years old, and I'm not saying 100% that these are things that are real. They 100% could have been in my head. You know, I was a kid. It was late at night. I'm not writing that off.
Kids are very imaginative people.
For sure, but I just don't think, like, why the fuck would I don't know. I could have been dreaming, I guess, but it felt real as can be. So, it's about 6 years old. It's at my grandma's house, which this house is notorious for having stories in my family. Like, everybody that's ever slept at this house has some kind of story, which I can get into that in a little bit. But so it was about, I couldn't even tell you what time it was, but it was late at night. I was in my room. It was dark out, obviously. I woke up. I don't know why I woke up. I just did. And the way I sleep, usually I always face a wall. Like I've been like that my whole entire life. I just face a wall when I sleep. And so I turned away from the wall and faced the rest of my room. And at this point, I saw, like, from the left part of the room, it was just like a guy, like straight up. There was no detail. It was just a shadow, just like a dark figure. And he was like heavier set, if that gives you a better like, it wasn't just like a normal dude. It was like a bigger, like, guy, and just kind of like was gliding across my room, and then stopped, and then disappeared just without any, like, it didn't like fucking poof or whatever. It was just gone. Then after that, this is where things get interesting, is because a lot of people have seen these lights in this house for some reason. It's basically just like a ball of light. They just showed up. It was like, I couldn't even describe the color. It was like orangish, I guess. Like in the top part of my bedroom, just kind of like drifted back and forth, and then disappeared again. And then after that orb of light disappeared, it was like, this is hard. It was like there was a mist. That's hard to explain too. There's like a strange mist, like, in the room, like it, like
a light
like
fog.
Like, yeah, like it was foggy in my room for like a second, but it was like it glistened in a way too. Just hard to. Very strange. But I wasn't really that scared in the moment until I, like, looked back on it. I was like, well, that's kind of fucking, like, freaky. But so obviously whatever I saw wasn't hostile or whatever the hell you want to say.
And you said that almost everyone saw that in the house.
Not the guy, but everyone has a story about a light, like an orb. Yeah. My parents do. Because when they would stay the night there, it was the same. This one was scary. I didn't like this one. They used to not tell me these things because they thought I would get scared, which was absolutely fucking true. Mm-hmm. So they would sleep in the basement, and I would sleep, like, upstairs. And they would hear, like, there's always toys in the basement because, you know, it's like a grandkid's house. Like, there's always, like, toys and shit everywhere. So they would hear, like, bouncy balls or, like, little cars, like, just moving around, like, outside of their bedroom door. And I guess one night in particular, they heard, like, somebody, like, laughing. I guess they thought it was me. Like, they thought I was just, like, fucking around in the basement. Like, what the hell is this kid doing? And they opened the door, and nobody was there, but there was, like, a bouncy ball just, like, skipped across the basement floor, like, by itself. It's kind of fucking spooky.
Spooky.
And then they saw, like, orbs or whatever, too. But that was interesting because it wasn't, like, just one person saw this light. They both saw the same light at the exact same time.
Really?
And were like, what the fuck was that? And they were like, oh, I don't know, man. Like, well... They just, like, try to explain it, but when two people see something at once, it's kind of hard to write that off as just your imagination. So there was that. Then there was, in the same basement, times with, like, my dad. I guess he and his friends, we used to practice down there because my dad was in a band when he was in high school, and this is the house he grew up in. And him and his friends were in the basement, and one of the friends put a watch on a table. And they were just talking, you know, doing whatever. And in the middle of them, like, having a conversation, this watch just straight up flew across the table and, like, smashed against the wall. And, like, all these guys, like, witnessed this watch just fucking just zoom off this table. I couldn't even imagine seeing that. How do you even explain that? Other things, more scarier things happened to my dad, though. Like, more, like, dark, like, I guess.
Less goofy, less
like, just, like, stereotypical, like, ooh, like a ghost fuck around, but, like, dark, weird shit. Like, when he would watch TV, the channel would change to 666, like, out of nowhere. I guess his alarm would do that, too. Like, his alarm would turn off. Like, his alarm clock would, like, just go to 666, which, like, is that even fucking possible? Like, that's not a time. Yeah. You know? So, things like that. Or he had a drum kit in the basement, and people would hear my dad playing the drums, and then he would show up,
be there,
like, to the house. Like, he would walk through the front door, and they'd be like, what the fuck? Like, we thought you were in the basement, like, playing drums. Like, oh no, like, I was at so-and-so's house. So that's also pretty strange. And those are all the stories that I have from that house. I think that ends my personal stories too. Besides, there was also at a house I lived in for a majority of high school. This wasn't really that weird, but I kind of wrote it off as when you have cats, you're kind of used to just seeing like movement,
Random things,
like out of your peripheral. But so I always think it was just my mind, like assuming there was a cat there, but there wasn't. But me and my dad would always see shadows like on the ground, like scurrying around. So I remember I brought it up one day. He's like, "Oh, like you see those like in the kitchen?" I was like, "Oh yeah." Like he's like, "Oh yeah, I see those too. I just thought that was just me like being stupid." I'm like, "No." So we both saw the same thing in that house too. Which who knows what the hell that could even be? That could be explained by, like I said, by my cats, like just being used to movement or anticipating a movement out of your periphery. So yeah, that kind of.
That's your ghost story.
Those are my personal experiences, and then family. Things that my family told me about.
Yeah. See, I never, because I don't believe in ghosts, and I never really had any experiences that would tell me that ghosts exist, which obviously is the difference between us, is that you had experiences. But my brother always used to say, because we grew up in it wasn't an older house, but we grew up in a house that was 2 stories. We slept on the second story. It was like a refurbished attic, and we shared that room, and he always used to tell me that he would play hide and seek with the shadows, and they would like hide in the room, and he would try to find them with his eyes while we were like asleep in the dark. And I always used to be terrified of that room. I actually would never go in that room alone, because I don't know if as a child I associated that room with my brother, and if my brother wasn't in it, because he was constantly in that room, always playing on his computer or whatever. And so if he wasn't in that room, I just felt uncomfortable. But I still have nightmares about that room, actually. I don't like it. I always got an uneasy feeling. I always felt like there were ghosts up there, even though I don't believe in them. But as a kid, I was still scared. I got an uneasy feeling about that room constantly. I don't even think as an adult I could go back to that room and go up those stairs. I just don't think I could do it. I hated that room. I think that might also be the reason I moved out before my brother did, because I started living with my mom.
Probably. I mean, that's just like sensing energy, I guess. Like, I don't know.
See, but that brings up an interesting thing, because like, what exactly is a ghost?
Right.
Because spirits don't technically exist by scientific law, or we haven't discovered them. Like, what is life force? But like, is a ghost just absent energy, or like excess energy in the universe that we can feel? Because like, obviously, I'm not going to get into pseudoscience here, but it's like you can definitely feel differences in a room.
Yeah, for sure.
Via temperature, via pressure or whatever. And that's another thing that people bring up when they have a quote unquote ghost experience, is like, well, the room got colder and it felt like different. The air felt heavier.
There's a lot of like things people say, it gets cold, or like you feel like your hair stand up or whatever for no reason.
But that could just be a basic fear response to an unknown area or something like that. But I have seen lots of interesting, obviously, the internet's full of these videos, but there was one I saw that really fucked me up, because I like cave diving. I've done, I've gone to caves that are like unmarked, and they aren't like tourist attractions like Mammoth Cave or whatever. And it was me, my brother and I, we went into this cave, and like, obviously they're very dark, and as you go deeper, the pressure gets heavier because the atmospheres are, denser or whatever. And it was a fun time. But I saw this video of a dude who went into a quote unquote haunted cave by himself, and he brought his camera, and he's like, I want y'all to pay attention to what goes on in this cave. Like, I think he said it was a bunch of miners had died in this cave, which makes sense. It was a mining cave, an old mine shaft.
Okay.
And he gets deeper in, and the chains start swaying, because they're, chains to like pull the mine carts up or whatever. And the chains start rattling, and you can hear people talking in this cave. And like, obviously this is an unmarked cave on the side of a mountain or whatever, and nobody's in it. And you can hear very clearly.
That's fucked.
And it is actually very scary. It's horrifying to look at. And it's like, even though I don't have a belief in them, like, you always have to thought, like, what if they are? And what if they're with us right now or whatever? And, I really want to go on I was supposed to go with an ex-girlfriend of mine. We were going to go on a haunted road trip.
Oh, I would do that.
Yeah, I would love to do that, but it's like, it's scary going to all the haunted hospitals in Michigan and all the psychiatric wards.
I feel like the only place I couldn't go to is a psychiatric ward.
That would be very scary. Those people in the olden days, I don't know if they still are, but in the olden days, like, those people were fucking tortured.
They were tortured and they were
because people didn't understand
clearly
them.
just like
Mistreated.
fucked up.
Mm-hmm.
And to take, if you believe in like a spirit, like if they died as a
Eventually.
tortured soul, and then what the fuck's
Mm-hmm.
going on in the afterlife there, like I don't know. Nah, that's the only thing I wouldn't go into a psych ward. I think that would like fuck with my head too
But what
much.
about a hospital?
Hospital maybe, because that's more, I don't know, physical ailments, I guess.
Yeah.
Some
They didn't die because
some
of
psychological,
mistreatment,
but yeah, they weren't just like being fucking tortured.
What about a cave? Would you go into a haunted cave?
I would go into a cave.
I think that'd be the worst.
Would, because
it'd be worse. There's no escape. There's one route, and what if that route gets covered? There's one escape.
That's true, but I don't know.
And then you're fucking stuck with a bunch of haunted spirits.
I just feel like, yeah.
It's like, can ghosts hurt you?
That's interesting.
Because if they can't, why are people so afraid of them?
I feel, well, and there's been some cases where people get
like wake up with like scratches.
Scratches,
and stuff,
yeah. Or, but obviously, everything is just people just telling stories. You don't know if there's any merit to them. But some people like feel like they've been pushed, or like you said, the scratches. So I feel like, in the case of if a ghost was like trying to like get somebody's attention, I feel like they definitely could. I do not think they could do any like actual harm.
So
like,
then why
like
are people
legitimate
so afraid
harm?
of them?
Because it's something they don't understand, or they can't, like, because humans have that tendency to just be like, I
Fear
don't
the
see
unknown.
it. Yeah, I don't see it. So it's either not real or whatever the fuck. So when something strange happens that you can't explain, people just lose their shit.
Yeah.
Because people are so grounded to just like everything that's just, I don't know, like as a society, everything's just like made up and like set in stone. Like this is how things work.
Mm-hmm.
And then if something challenges that, people just freak out. Which is why I want to start talking about aliens. But when I feel like aliens have probably been discovered in some case, and just it was just covered up because if people found out they were fucking aliens,
crazy.
they would lose their shit and things would just fall apart instantly.
Yeah.
And the government can't have that. We gotta be
It's true.
put in check.
Do you know any friends that have had like ghost experiences?
Not really. Honestly, no one's really told me any stories. No, actually.
That surprises me.
I don't think anyone's ever really told me like a legit ghost story.
Yeah.
Besides, like when you were kids, people would, but like I never believed.
Yeah, but
anybody.
you can chalk that up to like imaginative kids because like
Yeah.
like you said about the man with the hat, and
Mm-hmm.
lots of children experience that. Lots of children experience a man with a hat.
It could
And
just
is
be
that
like a
an
developing-
imaginary friend? Like, what are imaginary friends? Are those ghosts? Do kids actually see those things?
Right.
I don't think I ever had an imaginary friend.
I had a dog. I had an imaginary dog.
That's kind of weird.
It was a golden retriever. It was really fucking weird.
Did you ever like actually physically see him, or did you just kind of like talk?
I don't know
to
how
nothing?
he came about, but he was just like, I don't know, he would just like hang out with me. Probably because I was an only child and I was just bored and like lonely.
But Perry had an imaginary friend too. My brother,
Yeah.
if I recall, I'm not sure if he actually did, but I think he did because I didn't
Most
have
kids
one.
do.
Exactly. So what is that? Would you say? Because some people even like see their deceased grandparents or something. You know.
Thank you for saying that. Sorry, I'm gonna go on a tangent.
That's fine. Go for it.
Another family story. This one fucked me up actually. This is one that was like,
Okay.
what the actual fuck? So, this is my uncle. This is my uncle's mom. So I don't know how she's related to me. I don't know what her title is, but
Probably grandmother.
no, she's not really because it's my aunt's husband. So she's not like my grandma.
Well, it's still grandma by marriage, but
I
anyways,
guess,
continue.
but whatever. So, she was dating this guy. I don't know if she still is. Shout out to my uncle's mom if you're listening to this. She isn't. She's dating this guy, and her mom had recently passed away. I don't know. This is probably maybe 5 years ago or something. Her mom had recently passed away, and her boyfriend had woke up in the morning and went downstairs to make coffee. And this is from his point of view, like the story. So he goes downstairs and he sees a lady sitting in a chair at the kitchen table, and because I guess since he didn't live there, he just assumed like this lady's supposed to be here. So he just said like good morning and whatever, was being polite, and then made coffee, went back upstairs, said to my uncle's mom, "Who's that lady downstairs? I didn't know somebody was like here." And she's like, "What are you talking about? Like there's nobody downstairs." And he's like, I swear to God, I went downstairs, saw a lady, said hi to her. I just assumed she was supposed to be here. She's like, "No." And then he described her to my uncle's mom. I'm trying not to use names. And then she's like, that sounds like my mom. Like, that sounds like something she would be wearing, or her hair or whatever. So that kind of fucked me up, because it's just some guy who doesn't know any better. It would be different if it was her who saw her mom. It's like just be like part of a grieving process. Yeah. But some guy who had nothing to do, had no idea, you know, to see something and just be like, wait, that's pretty fucked up to me.
It's pretty fucked up. So we're at the 20-minute mark, and I wanna have these shows to be a little bit shorter. So I think that'll wrap it up for this week.
All right.
So thank you for coming, for being at a random person's house who we barely know, to talk to me about ghosts. And I'll definitely have you on some other time for a different topic. But thank you everybody for listening. If you like the show, leave a like and subscribe. It really helps us out. You know the drill. But we'll be back next week.
Tell your friends.
Tell your friends. We'll be back next week for a different topic with a different person, maybe. I'm not sure yet. And don't forget to check out our podcast, where we have Clay, myself, and 1 or 2 other people most of the time talk about everything and everything. Everything and anything. I really screwed that up, but that's okay.
Anything and everything. You know whose band was called that?
Was it your dad's?
No, it was Ken, who should be on the podcast soon. He had a band called Anything and Everything. They did not make music, but they were called that. They had shirts, and that was it.
All right. Thank you, everybody.
Peace.